The airport was loud, crowded, and impatient, yet in the middle of it all, two strangers stood quietly, both lost in very different ways. A tired single father holding a small backpack, and a powerful CEO with a first-class ticket, private assistants waiting, and an ache in her chest no money could fix. When the little girl tugged her father's sleeve and whispered, "Papa, she looks sad," the man hesitated, then gently asked a question that would change all their lives. "Are you lost too, ma'am?" Right finger if you enjoy emotional, heart-touching stories that restore faith in humanity. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to True Kindness Tales right now. Your support helps us bring more stories that matter. The airport terminal shimmered with glass and steel, announcements echoing endlessly, rolling suitcases humming across polished floors. Daniel stood near gate 47, rubbing his tired eyes, his daughter Emma leaning against his leg. He was 34, a single dad for 3 years now, ever since cancer had taken his wife far too quickly. Since then, airports had become emotional battlefields, places of departures, of absence, of everything he wished Emma didn't have to understand so soon. Emma was 6, small for her age, with observant eyes that noticed things adults ignored. She clutched a worn pink backpack, her favorite stuffed rabbit peeking out. They were flying to a new city for Daniel's job interview, another attempt at starting over. Their flight was delayed. Again. A few steps away stood Victoria Hale. To the world, she was a legend. CEO of a global tech empire. Sharp, composed, always in control. Her tailored navy coat, elegant posture, and calm authority made people step aside without realizing why. Yet today, none of that mattered. Her private jet had been grounded due to weather. For the first time in years, she was traveling commercial, and alone. Victoria stared at the departure board, but she wasn't really seeing it. She was seeing a hospital room from 20 years ago. Her mother's hand slipping from hers. Her father choosing business trips over bedside visits. Success had filled her calendar, not her heart. At 52, she had everything, except someone who would notice if she didn't come home. Emma looked up at her father and whispered, "Papa, why is that lady crying without tears?" Daniel followed her gaze. Victoria's face was calm, but her eyes were empty. He hesitated. He wasn't the kind of man who interrupted strangers, especially ones who looked important. But Emma gently pulled his hand. "Papa, maybe she's lost." Daniel sighed softly, then stepped forward, careful, respectful. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said kindly. Are you lost too?" Victoria blinked, surprised. Powerful people were usually spoken to, not with. She looked down at Daniel, then at Emma. Something disarmed her, the sincerity, the lack of expectation. I don't think so," she replied slowly. "My flight is just delayed." Emma tilted her head. Flights get delayed. People do too. Victoria felt something tighten in her chest. She crouched slightly to Emma's level. "That's very wise." Daniel smiled awkwardly. "She gets that from her mother." There was a pause. Not uncomfortable, just human. "I'm Daniel," he said. "This is Emma." "Victoria," she replied. She almost added Hale, then stopped. For once, she didn't want the weight of her name. They talked. About delays. About travel. About how airports made time feel strange. Emma showed Victoria her stuffed rabbit, explaining how it had been on more planes than Papa. Victoria laughed. A real laugh, surprising herself. For the first time in years, she wasn't a CEO waiting for a flight. She was just a woman, sitting on an airport bench, listening to a child talk about clouds. Minutes turned into an hour. The crowd shifted, announcements changed, but something unseen settled between them, comfort. Daniel shared his story in fragments. His wife, Lily, her smile, the way she sang off-key while cooking. How Emma still slept with her mother's scarf. He spoke without drama, without bitterness, just truth. Victoria listened, deeply. She didn't interrupt. She didn't check her phone. This man had lost everything that mattered, yet he was still standing. Still gentle. "And you?" Daniel asked, cautiously. "If you don't mind." Victoria hesitated. No one ever asked her that without wanting something. "I run a company," she said. "A very big one." Emma's eyes widened. "Like a queen." Victoria smiled sadly. "Something like that. But queens aren't lonely," Emma said simply. The words hit harder than any boardroom confrontation ever had. Victoria swallowed. "Sometimes they are." She surprised herself then, by telling them about her childhood, about empty mansions, about birthdays spent with assistants instead of family. About choosing success because it felt safer than love. I don't think anyone would notice if I disappeared, she admitted quietly. Daniel shook his head. I noticed you were sad. Emma nodded firmly. Me too. Something cracked open inside Victoria, something she had buried under achievements and numbers. She excused herself to the restroom, locked the door, and cried silently for the first time in years. When she returned, her flight had been reassigned. First class. Immediate boarding. She looked at Daniel and Emma. Would you like to join me for a meal? Just until boarding, they shared airport food that tasted better than any luxury dinner she'd ever had. When it was time to part, Emma hugged Victoria without asking. Don't be lost anymore, Emma whispered. Victoria knelt and held her gently. I won't. As she walked toward her gate, Victoria turned back. She looked at Daniel. May I help you? She asked. Daniel frowned. Help. I overheard your interview location, she said softly. I know the board. I know the CEO. Daniel laughed nervously. Small world. No, Victoria said. A kind one. 3 weeks later, Daniel got the job. Not just any job, a role that paid well, offered stability, and allowed flexible hours for Emma. He never knew how much influence Victoria had used. She never told him. What she did do was something else. Victoria started volunteering at an airport children's lounge once a week. Just listening. Just being present. She began rebuilding something she never had, connection. On Emma's 7th birthday, a package arrived. Inside was a handwritten card and 3 plane tickets. For adventures. And for reminding me that being found sometimes starts with a simple question. They met again. Not as strangers. Not as saviors. Just as people who had changed each other's direction. Victoria never became Emma's mother. Daniel never became her partner. This wasn't a fairy tale romance. It was something better. It was kindness without expectation. And sometimes, that's what truly saves us. Right finger if this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to True Kindness Tales. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for believing in kindness. Blue Heart.